Have you ever felt the consistent urge to reboot your life? Do you desire to start over or break free, but doubt that that's the right path for you? Or maybe you've had the burning desire inside to create something, but you don't allow yourself to do it. Or maybe you just don't know where to start. If so, if any of these questions resonate with you, in this class, we're going to dive into a process that can support you to create, co-create, or perhaps even recreate your life or something that you really want to put forth and birth into the world. Maybe you want to reinvent or re-envision something. And we are going to dive in, like I said, to the fire and ice process to support you to create anything in your life that you desire. And that creation is about choice, about personal empowerment, knowing who you are to put forth what it is you came here or feel called to do. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm really excited that you are tuning into this class today. My name is Kat Moulton, and I help you get out of your head and into your heart so you can create the impact you feel called to make. It's a space that I cultivate to begin to shift paradigms so people feel more confident, fully alive, and become more visible to put forth those creations into the world and make them tangible and real. We could all agree that we're in a pivotal time on the planet, right? Humanity is waiting then for people to set their hearts on fire, to stop hiding, to become more visible, and answer the call on your heart, answer your soul's call. To do that, you need clarity. You need courage and take action. Before we dive into how to do that, I'd like to share a little bit about myself and why this work is important to me. Then I'll share the method and then any ways that you want to reach out to me that are available. So like I said, my name is Kat Moulton, and I consider myself a coach, a healer, and a paradigm shifter. You're probably familiar with coaching and even healing. What does paradigm shifting even mean? Well, coaches really help people tap into what they want to do, get curious, ask them questions to empower them to take steps to do it. A little different than a consultant or a therapist who might guide them and tell them what to do. Coaches empower you to figure out what it is you need to do next. Healers are similar, but healers might take a deep dive into the past a little more than a coach who is more forward-thinking and forward-focused. A healer dives into the past, but helps you break up those things that are stopping you and to move forward. And they work more in the heart. A coach is a little bit in the head, a healer in the heart. I love to combine them because paradigm shifting to me is about mindset and heart set. That's a little spin on it because I found in my work, in my own growth, that just being in the mind didn't help. It kept me stumbling and fumbling, and I was in my own way, and I had to learn to go inside, into my heart and into my body to really help shift the mind. So I become very passionate about doing that for other people. And some of the things that I found on my own path and others' path that limit them from doing that are three key obstacles. The obstacles are often, turn up as excuses. There could be many, but the patterns that I found when people are trying to reinvent or recreate or create are similar ones for many people. And they are not having enough support, not enough tribe or community around them. They don't have enough confidence. They're lacking in it. They feel like it's been pulled away from them. And the third one is, on top of lacking of confidence and tribe, is focus, right? We don't have the focus because we keep letting other people's opinions, other pulls on our time, other pulls on our energy, taking us away from our focus. So I help people really get clear so they can focus. Develop pillars around this. There's 10 to 12 pillars to help people reinvent and create. But that is laying a foundation the further along piece is this fire and ice method. And I love, if you are a fan, if you're on this app, of Kristen Lemaster, because she's all about energy before action, right? And that's what the fire and ice method is. Fire is about the energy, ice is about the action. And in my life and on my path, I started off learning about energy back in the 90s in massage school and Reiki and psychometry. You know, I was learning about doing the energy, manipulating our physical body to release, but there was no action that was going along with it. A lot of that was passive because someone else was doing things for me or to me to help me release energy. And that only took me so far. You know, I entered in polarity therapy school, another great way to learn about energy and healing and shifting energy, but not really having the success because I wasn't taking the action. So jump cut to getting married, having small children, a lot of environmental illness, carbon monoxide and mold. I stepped away from that energy work for a little bit because I was struggling to keep up as a mama with 3 small children under 4 years, right? So I'd had a lot to learn. I was in this action phase of my life, but it was very reactive. I was always reacting to what was going on. I wasn't getting under the hood of what was causing the symptoms or the craziness. I wasn't getting to the root cause. And in that path, I fell into coaching. All of my children had developed food allergies, multiple food allergies, myself included. 5 of us developed asthma when only 1 person in the family had developed asthma. And I had to look and get to the root. And as I was doing that and studying, I thought I would get more credentials behind my name, and I fell into coaching. I was looking for a nutrition school, but it was actually a health coaching school. My world opened up. That was back in 2010. I found that I didn't want to work with just food, and I went into a life coaching program, you know, a women's empowerment coaching program. And that's where I learned a lot more about the action, you know, taking action, the doing, setting goals, all these things that can really help us. But again, I was just focused on the action and I wasn't into the energy. And there was a big disconnect. So I had to learn about both. And that's what this fire and ice method is. It's about incorporating both so we can make the biggest impact for ourselves, for our loved ones, for humanity at large, if that's what we're all about, right? So it's the energy and it's the action. It's the blending of the yin and the yang, the masculine and feminine energies to create. And it's about embodying both rather than settling for or just leaning into one or the other, like I did in both of those, you know, learning processes, if you will. So that is why I'm really passionate about it, because in those times where I only used one or the other, I really struggled. And I was missing, you know, the boat on opportunities about healing even for my family. And it's become this passion of mine to spread the word and share the methods, because sometimes we can go really deep into this energy healing, but we really start with the beginning, the fire and ice of tapping into what lights you up. And that's why I love the word fire. You know, it is creation for me. You know, it is the, let's get this thing moving. Let's get this thing going. We need to take it a step further. I liken fire and ice to practical spirituality, because on my path, that's another thing I had to learn, was getting really caught up in some of the energy, the cool stuff, the woo, having visions. There's a time and a place for that. It is amazing. But it wasn't helping me in real time get to the root of the problem and fixing the allergies, you know, and the asthma and what was creating it. Had a do a digging, had to take some steps and do some research and contact people who could come in and assess my home, assess the cracks in the chimney, you know, see what was really going on. If I didn't take those action steps, we would have continued to get sicker and sicker. So there is a practical side to all of this. But what I have found with those 3 things that, you know, kind of limit people, the lack of clarity, the lack of confidence, the lack of support, we are being held back. And we've got to stop and ask ourselves, what is really holding us back? Why am I not taking the action when perhaps I know I need to? And I want to share a story with you about the elephant, the trained and chained elephant. Have you ever heard of that before? Okay, it's a really quick story about how we really get programmed and conditioned, and we're not even aware that it's happened to us, because we're caught up listening to the woulda, shoulda, couldas, the thoughts in our head, the opinions of other people that, they might not even be ours. What really resonates truly inside with us, what we know and what we feel, or when we feel it, sometimes we still doubt it. So the story goes something like this. There is a young child who goes to the circus with their parent. And outside of the circus tent, there is a big, powerful elephant just standing there kind of docile. He's got one shackle on one leg with a chain staked to the ground, and he is not moving. And the child asks his father, why does the elephant not just break free? Elephants, when you see videos of them, or maybe you've been on safari, they are powerful animals that when they're in a herd and in community, they stir things up. You cannot stop them. They have a strong sound from their trunk. They're just these amazing beings. But yet when they're in the circus or in captivity, they're just because they don't know how to tap into their power. They don't even know it exists because they've been trained and conditioned and constrained. And so the father or the mother, I don't remember which, but the parent, let's just say, tells the child that when the elephant is taken to be part of the circus act, they are little and they are chained. The shackle on their leg, the chain, and the stake. And when they try to move forward, they stop because the chain pulls and it stops them. And over time, they become conditioned to stop. So even as they're growing, they feel the tug and they've been conditioned to stop. How has that happened in your life? Have you ever stopped to think where you've been conditioned, where your fire has been dimmed, or maybe even smothered and put out because the elephant can just stop, right? So that elephant just doesn't know his power. And maybe some of you out there aren't sure what your true power is. So that's a little bit about what Fire and Ice is about. It's helping you tap inside to release some of that conditioning. I like to say, unlearn the programming, unleash unlock your heart and unleash your brilliance, right? All the unlearns, because really we are all powerful creators. And the world is really waiting for you to tap into that, to bring your magic forth. So whatever's been calling on your heart that you're hesitating, you're not doing, you don't think you could, you're like that elephant, it just stops. We're here to help you unravel and unwind that so you can move forward. There's a quote that I love by R.H. Syme. It says, some women fear the fire. Some women simply become it. A lot of my clients are female and I ask, what type of woman are you? But if you're listening to this, I ask you, it doesn't matter how you identify. What type of person are you? Do you fear the fire? Do you let it stop you? Or are you someone who wants to become it? Do you want to put forth your creations into the world? So when I think of fire, like I said, I think of creation and moving forward. And it is time to let go of the social constructs, let go of the expectations, let go of the programming, and start to get your fire and your juices alive again. And I tell you this story about the chained elephant because it is about shifting mindset and emotions and working through the body. And it's also really focused on our heart set. So if you haven't already grabbed a pen, I'm going to invite you to do so. We're going to go over the Fire and Ice guide. And fire is where we get curious. I talk a lot about it because there's so much like inaction to go over before you take the action steps. And it is a space to get curious because I believe curiosity is the root of alchemy. It's the foundation to knowing yourself so that you can create whatever it is that's been calling you or driving you or speaking to you. All right, you got your pen? FIRE stands for, it's an acronym. F, feel. I, inspiration. R, release. And E, embody. So when we talk about F, feel, the potent question for that is, ask yourself, how do I want to feel? You know, how do you want to feel in the morning when you get out of bed? How do you want to go to bed at night when you rest your head on the pillow? How do you want to feel in relationship with your partner, with your loved ones, with your coworkers? You know, do you want to feel excited? Do you want to feel good? Do you want to feel free? Do you want to feel unconstrained and alive? Or do you want to feel like you're just another cog in the wheel? You know, that every day is the same old, boring, lifeless challenge or struggle or, I don't know, whatever icky word comes to mind. How do you want to feel on a regular basis? And that is the question. So let's keep in mind that life is not always about feeling good. You know, we are human. We have some up and downs. There are different emotions we go through. None of them are good or bad. You know, sometimes we feel apathetic. Sometimes we feel a little depressed. We may have shame. We may have doubt. These things can be normal. The key is not to stay stuck in them, right? So knowing how you want to feel on a regular basis so that you can shift out of those lower vibrating emotions to maintain yourself in higher ones on a regular basis is partly where the magic is. So we have to know ourselves and know how we want to feel. Okay. I, inspiration. What would I love? Ask yourself that question. What would I love to do? You know, how would I love to feel? Not just want to feel. How would I love to feel? What would I love to create? Like, what lights you up? What sets your heart on fire? Do you ever take the time to ask yourself that? Or do you just think that you are this way and you're always going to be this way? Like one of my brothers, he sounds like Papa. He's like, I am what I am. But he believes himself to be an addict and doesn't think that he has the power to change that. I'm here to tell you that no matter what you're going through, you have the power to change it. I've been there. I have been to the place where I felt so uninspired, where I felt like I was always going to feel this icky way because I was told that that was what life was. You know, find someone who has what you want. Do what they do, get what they got, right? Find someone who lights you up, who is excited about life, who shows up loving life every single day, you know, and model them. That's why, you know, that lack of tribe or community is so important. Sometimes we need role models. Sometimes we need people to have our back. Sometimes we really need people to support us. And so if you're having trouble finding inspiration, reach out and find some support. But this inspiration piece is vital to creation because we want to feel inspired. You know, ask yourself, or I'm going to ask you this question. What would you do? What would you love to do if money or time were not constraints or limitations that you perceived? You could wave a magic wand. How would you show up in your life? What would your life look like? What would you create for yourself or create in the world? So do a little digging and ask yourself those questions. And if you write about them in a journal, do not limit yourself. Just free flow and see what comes up and get some inspiration for yourself. Okay, that is the I. Now we're going to move into R, release. What do you need to let go of to move forward in your life? What do you need to let go of to be able to take the action? This again is about reflection. Write the answers, don't just think them in your head. This process is about getting out of your head. Getting it onto paper is really important, and let the container of the paper hold things for you. So what do you need to surrender to or let go of? Have you ever heard of FUD? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Do you need to release those from the regular part of you who easily slips into fear or uncertainty or doubt? Do you need to let go of them? Sometimes fear is here to teach us something. I have some stories that I could tell, but I think we all know that fear can be a really powerful teacher. There is a time to listen to true fear. It stops us. It stops us from driving off the cliff or taking up with a person that maybe isn't really helpful for us. But if we're always in fear, if that is our baseline, that is not healthy, and that is not how we create. So do you need to let go of those things? Or maybe you need to let go of certain people in your life, or the space that you're living in, or the job that you're at. There's no right or wrong, but what do I need to release to move forward? Perhaps it's past trauma or grievances that we're holding against other people, pain that we're living with that we just don't know that we can let go of or move beyond. What do you need to grieve? What do you need to forgive so that you can create space in your life and in your environment and in your energy to create what it is that you truly, truly desire? So just start to get curious and again, journal about it or write about it. And part of the action that we're going to get to in a moment is about actually doing these things that you come up with to the answers of these questions. Okay, so E stands for embody. Who do you need to become to have the life you vision for yourself? You want to be the energy that you want to attract. We don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. So if you are not getting the results in your life that you want, if you're not creating what it is that you want, who do you need to become to do it? In part of my programming, I invite some of the women I work with to be her now, to unlearn the programming, to unlock our heart and to unleash our brilliance. Be him now. Be the person you want to be, the person that you're visioning it. Just start stepping into it. Joe Dispenza's work is so amazing, and he talks about this. If you want a new life, sometimes you just got to become somebody new. So start embodying it, start playing with it, and ask yourself, if I were really successful in business, how would I show up? What would I do? Would I be hitting snooze on my alarm every day, or would I be getting up and taking action, just getting myself out of bed, even when I felt a little tired or uncertain? Who do you need to be? Do you need to be the person that trusts? Trust in your vision. Do you need to be the person that grounds their energy so they can show up in their full power? So that whatever you're doing in your life is serving you, to raise your vibration and put into practice every single day. Take one more step and become that person that you envision yourself to be. So ask yourself, what next step will help me master my own energy, my mindset, and my emotions to get me there? There are so many questions that you can ask, and that's why getting a coach or a therapist or a healer or an accountability partner or a tribe is so important, because sometimes we don't know the questions and we need to lean into others to help us find them. But hopefully in that fire process, you've been given some basics that can really help you start to cultivate it is. We need clarity to know what it is that we want to create for us. And that's why knowing what lights us up, knowing what we need to let go of is really, really crucial to the creation process. So the next part is about the taking action, because when we create, there is that time to step into the void, to reflection, to be quiet, to do the energy stuff. maybe do the healing stuff to release. But without action, things don't usually come to fruition. And that's what the ice is about. The ice is about generating and stimulating the action pieces. So, as you can imagine, ice also has its own acronym piece. The I is for intention. The C is for choice and conscious language. And the E is for engaging. That is taking energy. So let's break this down a little. When you've done the work of the fire, you can really start to set your intention. What is it that you're really envisioning yourself for yourself? So when we go to that embody piece, what is the vision that was coming to mind? Set your intentions, your goals, and your desires. Put them down. This is really where we start to get clearer. It's that deliberate creation piece. Without a clear intention, we don't have a place to go. So we want to know what we're intending to call in, what we're intending to create. That's why this surrendering is so important. We also want to sometimes surrender the timeline. I know a lot of us are taught to set goals and put a timestamp on it. And sometimes we have to do that. But when we are creating in the bigger picture, we might just need to surrender that there is something else working with us. The divine, another energy that is bigger than ourselves. And that divine order and trusting it might have a bigger vision for us. So set your intentions and let them evolve, because this is a refining process, right? Journal it down, write it down, put it in that container that you can work with, but let go of maybe the timeline for a little bit. So C is about the choice, right? Everything in life is a choice. We need to learn to discern what choices are better for us, that help us meet our goals, that help us really show up in our full power. So choice is so important, because when we are living like that elephant, when we are strained or constrained and chained and whatever those words are, we don't really realize that the choices we're making are not true choices, because we're on autopilot and sometimes we're doing just what we're told to do, what we think we should do, right? So when we want to make really good choices for ourselves, we've got to become aware of the language that we're using and the thoughts in our heads. There's a really great book, it's older, called Conscious Language, the Logos of Now. So when we tweak our language, our choices become amplified. Alana Van Sant, I don't know if you've ever followed her, says that everything we say is a prayer. So we are speaking our truth, our visions, our intentions into the universe. But if our language is murky and disempowering, we're not going to create what's in our vision. So we've got to make choices about what we want to do and how we're going to speak them into the universe. There's a story, Tony Robbins. It's a story, it's a video. I saw it years ago. He was coaching someone in a very big group setting. He's got these amazing platforms. And he was telling someone to try to pick up the chair. And the person, went over and picked it up and moved it. And Tony was like, no, I want you to try to do it, not do it, try. So when you're trying to do it, trying to do something, you're just kind of like not actually doing it. We're stuck in this limbo space because in the trying, there's nothing happening with the chair. So we want to be very cognizant of the language we're using. Don't try, just do, have, be, use the language. I am a powerful creator. I am a powerful creatrix living in the matrix. I have 10 employees working for me. I have healthy, happy, and whole children. And when we speak these into existence, we can reverse engineer, we can take the action steps. And that's what the engagement is all about, right? E is for engage. What action step will help me get clarity? What is the next best step that I need to take to have me get that choice, to make that intention come to fruition? It is also we've, in the intention and the choice, we're like creating a plan. So engaging is when we make that plan, take our steps. What do we need to do? We actually take them, right? We need to take the steps. And if we're not, we need to go back and ask some of ourselves, like, why are we not doing it? What is stopping us? What is limiting us? What do I need to release so that I will take the step and do it? So this is a powerful question process that we do. But there is a time for action, and that's what ICE is all about. When we get to the engagement, take the action steps. What happens when we take action? Do things always work out the way we want? Not necessarily, but this is where the magic is, right? This is where we get to know our goal. We get to tweak. So when we take action, we get information, we get feedback from whatever it is that we did, and we get to refine, ask some new questions, write some new goals, some new intentions. What do I need to try next? What is my next best step, right? So rinse, repeat, refine, and go back through the process. And if you have to go back when you're in that creative element, to step back into the energy and take time in the void to reflect, that's okay. Start to get to know yourself and know what you need. If you're always in the fire part and never taking action, you got to ask yourself why. And you've got to find someone, if you're not able to do it by yourself, to help you move forward and break through. Because if we want this big life that we envision, or these small pieces that really impact people, so for me, when I told you that my children all had food allergies and asthma, and so did I, if I just learned the information of what was causing it and never took the action steps to get the help, we did need some medical intervention for that. We needed to carry inhalers. We needed some testing to see what was really going on in the body. But I knew, because I took the time to get quiet, that it doesn't make sense for 5 people to develop food allergies and 5 people to have asthma when it never really existed before. There's got to be a root cause. There's got to be something. And the allergist was only treating the symptom, right? I knew that if I wanted to have us heal from this, to not all always live with breathing trouble and immune responses, I had to take some action steps. I had to see a different type of healer, see a different type of allergist who did different types of testing that could get under the hood. Then I had to make some lifestyle changes. I had to fix a furnace that we thought was fixed repeatedly, had to get out of my comfort zone and call the fire department, call the the inventor of this thing, so that we could really have a healthier life. It was by fixing things that were not working correctly, but we had to dig to get to it. And that's what I'm inviting you to do in this process. Be willing to refine. And I had to go back and refine. I had to have people tell me I was crazy and I was not right. In the end, I actually was spot on, because I was listening to inside. And that's what this process invites you to do, to listen to your inside voice, not the voices in your head that are other people's, opinions, the past, the TV, the programming. Listen to the inside voice. Tap into source, tap into the divine, whatever it works for you, whatever the language is, God, the universe. Tap into the other guidance that can help you know your next best steps, so that you are on the right path, so that you can create the impact you feel called to make, that you can revision your life and you can take the action step to make it happen. So I hope this has been useful for you. Inspired action is really the key. Inspired action helps you wake up. Let's just go over the letters again. F is for feel. How do you want to feel? I is for inspiration. What would I love? R is for release. What do I need to let go of to move forward? E is for embody. Who do I need to become to have or create all that I want to do? I is for intention. What is it that I want? What is it that I see? What is it that I vision? How am I going to get it? C is for choice. Discern, get clarity. What am I going to choose to work on today? And what language do I need to use to help me birth that into existence? And E is for engaging in inspired action. Take the action steps that you've come up with. Rinse, refine, and repeat. Find support or guidance if you need it. Because the world needs people who are fully awake, who are dangerously alive inside and unified in heart and purpose, who are here to answer the call on their heart. So from my heart to yours, may the energy of love flow through you, the energy of creation flow through you and expand to create more waves of pure positive impact in the world. Step into your calling, listen to your inside voice, and use the fire and ice method to help you unlearn all this programming, unlock your heart, and unleash your gifts. Thank you for joining me in this class today. I hope there was value for you.